Okay, meeting will come to order. This meeting is coming to order at 4:32. The hearing session, this is the portion of our meeting designated for comments from the public about matters related to the closed session agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 20 minutes allocated for a particular item or topic. To address the governing board, please submit to the clerk of the board a completed speaker card prior to the start of the closed session portion of the meeting. Are there any
We do not have any cards.
cards? Okay. All right, then we will adjourn the board and go into closed session at 4:32, 4:33. Thank you. The board has returned from closed session and will adjourn into open session at 6:07 p.m. So no action was taken in closed session. And we'll now move to the flag salute. Flag salute will be led by Josue and Suzanne. So.
Good evening, board members, district leaders, and members of the community. My name is Josue Espinoza, and I am a 6th grade student at Fallbrook STEM Academy, and I am pleased to join you this evening as a student leader. I would like to thank my school principal, Ms. Arias, and my assistant principal, Ms. Enriquez, for this opportunity. This evening, we are joined by students and staff from the Mike Child Development Center who will help us with the Pledge of Allegiance and also sing a song for you.
And hello, I am Susan Garnica. I am a 4th grade student leader at Fallbrook STEM Academy, and I am also excited to participate in the board meeting this evening on Patriot Day. Today is Patriot Day, September 11, 2023. Today we remember the heroes and victims of September 11. 22 years ago, Patriot Day is an opportunity to recommit to the spirit of unity, patriotism, and service that carried America through in the days that followed 9/11. At this time, I would like to ask you all to stand, place your right hand over your heart, and join us in the reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, many people are here.
At this time, I would like to ask you all to stand, place your right hand over your heart, and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Not yet, not yet, not yet. So the student presentation will be,
In addition to Patriot Day, students in the Farbrook Union Elementary School District learn a lot about our country in September. September 17th is Constitution Day, and we all learn about our government and the Constitution through our reading program and activities in our classes.
In our class, we are learning about how the government helps us in natural disaster. And this is the bug where we get the knowledge from. I would like to welcome our friends from Mike Choke Center, our Fallbrook Preschool. This evening we will have a special treat to hear a song by our friends from MCC as an example of how they learn about our country.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I've roamed in redwood and I followed my
okay, one more.
Thank you, Ms. DeRico and Dr. Crucio and Miss Emily and Miss Gregoria and students for helping us celebrate this evening. As you can see, even preschoolers learn about our country for Constitution Day. Thanks again, students. And finally, it is my pleasure to introduce the FUESD highlight video for this evening. In this short video, you will see a representation of how students learn about the Pledge of Allegiance at La Paloma Elementary. You will also see a student-led assembly at Potter Junior High. We thank you for your support of students in Fallbrook and this opportunity to highlight what we are up to in the schools. And now, the video.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountain
we would love to take some photos. So board and team, if you could stand up and let's take a photo with our microphone student. And we're gonna let all our parents take lots of photos. It's a gift for you. You got the microphone. Let's go take a picture. You guys can go stand in the front. Well done. Perfect. Good job. Now three. We're gonna look at all of them together. First we'll look this way, okay? Then we'll look the middle, then we'll look to the left on this side. Okay, everybody look this way where my hand is. Here, everybody smile. Look over here. Good job. Okay, now in the middle. Look that way. And now we're gonna look at this one. Oh my goodness, wait. And thank you, moms and dads, for coming out tonight. This one. Gonna start off. Don't leave yet. We're gonna take one more photo. Who's gonna help fight? All right. Thank you so much for being a leader at Fallbrook STEM. Wonderful Mom and Dad did it? Thanks, Judy. All right. And Josue, thank you so much. You did a wonderful job. I appreciate that you're a leader at Fallbrook STEM and a positive role model for other children. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And now let's take a picture of both of them together. Yeah. And we can put it up. And how about our principal and the principal?
Yes.
Come on up.
Give me your phone. I'll take a picture for you.
There you go. Great. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see the many people. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much. Great job. We'll see your sisters here in a few years.
So approved minutes of August 21st, 2023, regular meeting and August 31st, special meeting and board study session. It is recommended the governing board approve the minutes of August 21st, 2023, regular meeting and August 31st, 2023, special meeting and the board study session. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. I will call for a vote. Isabel? Aye. Ms. Lundin,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
and I also, aye. Okay, so going to community relations. Hearing session, this is a portion of the meeting designated for comments from the public about matters not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Should individuals wish to comment on items on the present agenda, they may do so during this portion of the meeting or at the time the item is considered by the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, with a maximum of 20 minutes allocated for a particular item or topic. While the Brown Act allows the board to hear issues within its jurisdiction from the public that are not on the agenda, it only allows the board to respond in a very limited manner, such as providing direction to the staff. If the board were to have more than this type of brief discussion on an item not on the agenda, it could be a violation of the Brown Act's rules for posting the agenda. To address the governing board, please submit to the clerk of the board a completed speaker card prior to the start of the open session portion of the meeting. Do we have?
We do. We have a couple of speakers, and we'll start with Ron Hall.
Thank you, board members. Superintendent, good to see you. As president of Fallbrook Rotary, I'm excited to join you this evening and proud to tell you about our LEAD conference coming up in October. As background, Rotary International was established in 1912. There are currently 1.4 million members nationwide or worldwide, excuse me. Actually, one of the newest members we have in Rotary is here with us tonight. Dr. Hussein. And so anyway, we're excited to have her with Rotary, and she's been excellent. So Rotary also has 46,000 clubs also worldwide. So it's a very, very big organization, and I'm certainly proud to be part of that. So also Rotary has donated and allocated over $2 billion to worthy causes worldwide. And so it's a very big, exciting organization to be part of. So anyway, so regarding the LEAD conference, we are really pleased to be able to participate with the elementary school district on this program. And so we're also excited to work with at Potter Junior High School, Maricela Gonzalez, and to sponsor the 8th graders. And this year, we're actually going to have 4 students, 2 girls and 2 boys joining that program. So very, very happy and excited about that. It's a 2-day weekend leadership camp, as I said, of 8th graders, where delegates discuss issues of ethical responsibility, improve leadership and communication skills, develop a positive outlook on service and life, and have fun with friends. So this conference will take place at Camp Cuimucca in mid-October. So anyway, Fallbrook Rotary looks forward to this opportunity for leadership and a speech and essay contest coming up in the spring. So we're really looking forward to that as well. So and I'd just like to say thank you guys for honoring Patriots Day and Constitution. Very moving. Thank you. So with that, that's all I've got for you guys. And thank you again for the opportunity to work with you. And we're just excited about it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Michael.
Hello, board members. I want to thank you also for recognizing the Patriot Day. I don't have any prepared remarks, but I want to go up here and make a mark about what I just saw. I don't know anyone who could see a bunch of kids stand in front of the room and sing a song like that and not be moved, because that's why we're here. I guess I would just want to come up here and say, as board members of a school board, working with teachers unions, etc., if there could be people that would take initiative, or you take the initiative to recognize the things. There's so many things we point out differences between us at schools, this, that, and the other thing, but the things we have in common, our flag, Old Glory, the bald eagle, our national anthem, the song they just sung. I watch videos on YouTube of people in Britain, in Australia, in Bangladesh, listening to the story of the Star Spangled Banner, and they are moved to tears. I think if there's things we can do in our school, the symbol of our nation, the flag, things that we can get students to think alike, just like music crosses barriers, our flag can cross barriers between our students. So if there are things you can take the initiative on to incorporate these things that grow the pride in our nation, the recognition of how great our nation is. We got things we can fix, but we're still doing it better than everybody else. And if we can get that message across to our kids, like I said, I think it'll break down a lot of walls and barriers between the things that tend to go on in schools. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that'll be it for the hearing session.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a report from the base liaison?
Good evening. Good to see everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the superintendent and her leadership team from the schools at Camp Pendleton for attending the Commanding General's Educators Luncheon. So it was a great opportunity for him to express his gratitude for all that you do for our on-base schools. And then I'd also like to announce, and I think you're aware that the base will be celebrating Evening Colors. It's a celebration of the 81st anniversary of the base and its mission. And if you could attend, it's on September 20th. And for the superintendent, I have a printed out invitation as well. I think that you might have one already. It'd be great if you could make it. And if not, I understand you have a busy schedule. So those are the things I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will go on to reports from the board. We'll call on Mr. Favela.
Sure. Thank you to all the teachers and all the parents that were able to bring our students out here tonight on such a special day. It's always a treat when we have students attend our meetings. So thank you all. So I attended a Potter Junior High PTSA meeting this past couple weeks. Had a chance to do so remotely. So just trying to do my end to support Potter Junior High. So thanks to the parents and the new president that is taking leadership at Potter Junior High. Also had a chance to attend the second Masters in Governance session that happened in San Marcos on Saturday. That's a very it's been very good training, right? I think as much as possible, and any of our board members that can attend, it's been very helpful. So I'm glad to be a part of that. And finally, just have a baseball, softball update. I know that the season has begun for Little League and Fallbrook Girls softball. Just wanted to let folks know that there's still room for the 8U team. They're a bit short. So if anybody is interested and anybody wants to, nudge somebody they know to join, there's still time. They just played their first game this weekend, but there's still time to join the team. So just wanted to make that announcement.
Thank you. And Mrs. Lundy.
Thank you. I wanted to talk for a minute about student enrollment. As many of you know, the new trend in California's public schools is a slow and gradual decline in enrollment. And it's because of changing demographics and outmigration. And the implication that has for we in a school district is that our state funding comes based on our enrollment, ADA, average daily attendance money. And that averages out to about $14,000 a year per student. So as school districts are losing students, it's putting a greater and greater burden on those districts to have enough money to do what they need to do. And I saw our new numbers 2 years ago today, well, 2 years ago, approximately today, we had 5,048 students. Today, we have 5,212 going up instead of down by 6%. And in California, most districts are going down 5%. So you can see how well this school district is doing. And it's really a testament to the district's extraordinary staff and our working partnership with our parents and the community. This is the school district that parents want their children to come to, and we're glad to have them here. That difference in just those 289 students means $4 million to the Fallbrook Elementary School District, which is so critical because post-COVID money is now starting to come to an end. And a lot of that post-COVID money paid for our incredible after-school programs. So I'm just so excited at the fact that this school district is growing, it's healthy, it's strengthening, and we're on a roll.
And now, Ms. Bell?
Unfortunately, I have nothing to report.
You've been sick.
Yes. Thank you. So, and for me, I had the opportunity to attend the workshop with the CSBS consultant, Mr. Kane. And then that was at the end of the month last month. And then this month, I've had the opportunity to attend the governing board workshop, the master's training, governance training, and in San Marcos. And 3 of us attended an all day. This is our second session, and there'll be 5 sessions. So we learned about the student data and just a variety of things. There was a lot of note taking, which I'm already a note taker, but this one actually required a lot of note taking. So we all took a lot of notes. And there was a little something that Mr. Favela did not report on. There was a little part where they had us participate. And so Mr. Favela and Mrs. Hazel did a little acting at this particular and they really got into it. It was quite enjoyable to watch.
Is it on video?
I don't think anybody thought to video it. But so yes, and that's all I've got to report. Thank you.
That's great.
So okay. So now I'm going to move on to report from I would like to inform that the Fallbrook community that our board president, Dr. Stacy McRae, has recently relocated beyond the boundaries of trustee area 4. As a result, she is no longer eligible to continue serving as board trustee. Dr. McRae also submitted her resignation to our board clerk, Trustee Favela, as well as Dr. Paul Gotthold, Superintendent of the San Diego County Office of Education. In light of this development and pursuant to the board bylaws of bylaw 9121, I will perform the president's duties at this evening's meeting. If the board would like to elect a new president, then this action item can be agendized for the next meeting. Regardless of the outcome, and in whatever position I serve, I am committed to dedicating my efforts to the best of my abilities to represent our community effectively and with utmost professionalism. Thank you. And now for the report from our superintendent, Mrs. Hazel.
Thank you. I always have so much to celebrate every time we get together, and today is no different. So I've got a lot of thank yous and a lot of highlights that I'd like to share with all of you. So it starts off with Mr. Hall. You were my very first item that I wanted to share, and he gave us a little preview and shared with us about the LEAD program. So I'm just really I've only been to one Rotary meeting so far, in addition to the welcome back luncheon that they had, but I'm looking forward to attending next week and to attending as many times as I can in the future. I'm so impressed with the spirit of service all across Fallbrook. And I believe that our Rotary clubs really champion that work. And so I'm really I'm just really honored to be part of that work. And so we're really excited that they are sponsoring 4 students. And then our other Rotary club didn't want to be our Village Rotary Club that's in Fallbrook as well. We've got such a focus on service. We've actually got 2 Rotary clubs. And so they were inspired based on the actions of our Rotary Club of Fallbrook to also support 4 students. So in combined spirit of supporting students, we have 8 students that are 8th graders from San Onofre Mary Faye Pendleton School and our school at Potter. And so it's just a great opportunity for our students. And I just am really thankful to the organization for committing that funding and to supporting our students. I think it's an investment for future Rotarians in Fallbrook. So hopefully we're going to see them grow up and come back and serve our community. I also wanted to thank General Woodworth for hosting the educators meeting and the luncheon. That was on August 23rd, and we got to go to the base at Pacific View Events Center, which is a beautiful facility. And we had principals Brian Frost and Joe Nisley, in addition to superintendents from Bonsall, Fallbrook High School, Marietta, and Oceanside were all in attendance. And in addition to Dr. Paul and the other liaisons and staff from the base. And the things that I really appreciated a rich discussion that we had related to supporting our military families that are on and off the base and how we can work together to best support the families and the unique needs that our military students experience. And we also talked about the California Purple Star School program. And this program is a recognized program in the state of California, and it recognizes schools that are committed to meet and equip the needs of our military connected students and families. And so I'm just excited to share with you that all Fallbrook elementary schools are going to be applying to be a California Purple Star school. And our goal is to have our district be a Purple Star district because we know that we have two base schools, but we have military connected students at every single school in Fallbrook. And that's something important that we focus on. I want to also take an opportunity to just thank all of the families in Fallbrook for showing up in droves at our back to school night. Our rooms were standing room only. We had all the rooms were packed. We had families coming with their children. I found that to be beautiful, quite honestly. In many of the districts that I have experienced as a parent or also as a staff member, back to school night has always just been like no kids allowed. And in Fallbrook, it was kids are welcome. And not only are kids welcome, but we've got childcare out there on the playgrounds. We've got dinner for you and food trucks, and we're making it easy for our parents to come to school and be partners with us. And I think that that's so important. So I just want to take a minute to thank all of the families who prioritized that time to come to the school and build that partnership with their classroom teacher and our school in general. I also want to thank the board for extending the time to build our cohesive governance team. One of the things that we learned at our Masters of Governance and our day of learning together was that when even one new member joins the board, it's a new board. And so it's really important to refocus our vision together as a team. And so we had a lot of time together to be able to talk about vision and mission and what our goals are and how we want to measure those goals and how we want to support our schools and model for our schools how we gather together around a common vision. So I'm excited we have another session coming up on the 26th. On the 26th. Thank you. And that is open to the public. We had some public visitors that were there and participated last time. Thank you for being here tonight as well. We appreciated you being there. This weekend, I want to forecast something. We've got a very exciting weekend coming up. Associate Superintendent Martin and I are going to be headed out to Washington, D.C. for the annual NAFIS conference. And NAFIS is an organization that has been the voice of the impact aid community before Congress and the administration. And they focus on ensuring that we get extra funding to support our military students. And so we're flying out on Saturday. The conference starts on Sunday and we'll be back on Wednesday. It's a quick event, but it really is an opportunity for us to share with the organization what are the funds that we need to support our military connected students and to ensure that the federal government continues to offer that support to our school and our districts. Finally, I'd like to share that our after-school enrichment programs begin today. They are well attended. There's 56 different sessions that are being offered across the 8 after-school programs. We've got creative arts, design, esports, which the kids couldn't be more excited about, and theater. We also have kitchenistas, robotics, so many amazing programs to support our families and our students who need after-school care to continue that learning all the way till 6 o'clock. So lots to celebrate in Fallbrook, and I continue to thank you for your trust in me to lead this amazing district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hazel. So now we're moving on to administration. So action resolution number 03-2324 regarding exchange of property tax revenues in connection with territory transfer. It is recommended the governing board adopt resolution number 03-2324 regarding the exchange of property tax revenues in connection with the territory transfer. Do I have a motion for this?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Favela. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Lundin. Is there anyone want to make a comment or discussion? Then I will take a vote. Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Lundin,
Aye.
Mrs. Sabel,
Aye.
and I also say have aye. So we move on to Resolution 04-2324, November as Military Family Appreciation Month. It is recommended the governing board approve Resolution 04-2324 regarding November as the Military Family Appreciation Month. Again, do I have a motion for this? I motion we approve. Thank you, Mrs. Sabel. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Lundin. And I will take a vote. Mrs. Sabel? Aye. Ms. Lundin?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
And I also say aye. So we're moving on to presentation. Mr. John Pearl from Dennis Williver and Kelly will give a presentation regarding the process to fill a trustee vacancy.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you all trustees and pleasure to be with cabinet and members of the public. I'm going to pass out hard copies for the board members if that's preferable. And if they're members of the public who would like a copy, we'll have those available as well. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Dennis Williver Kelly. I have the pleasure of working with this district and the board for a number of years. As the superintendent and Trustee McBride shared earlier, board president and trustee Dr. McCray resigned effective September 6, 2023. As a result of that, the 5-member board has dropped down to 4 members. And the way California law works is that depending on the timing of when the resignation takes place, the timing presents the choices that the board has to fill that vacancy. And because of the timing and the next election being not until November of 2024, if you look at the first page of the handout and the slide number 2 on the screen, the board has 2 options, is the way the process works. The board can either order a special election to fill the vacancy, And just to be upfront, the note there says that that would mean that the district would be responsible for the costs of any special election that would result. That has to be coordinated through the county, and expenses can range anywhere from 150,000 to 250,000, and those really are just approximations. It depends. But that's one option that the board has to fill the vacancy. The other option that the board has is to make a provisional appointment to fill the vacancy. And there's a process that would have to be followed as well related to that. And if you make a provisional appointment, that individual would serve until November of 2024, which is when the next election for a board member would take place. Time is somewhat of the essence because the law provides 60 days for the board to, if it chooses actually to make an appointment, then the county superintendent has the right after 60 days to call a special election and to actually fill the vacancy. But we're here tonight because we want to avoid that and we want to go through the different steps. So that's our hope tonight, is that we leave with making a choice between either a special election or the board exercising its right to make a provisional appointment. If the board elects to do a provisional appointment, these are essentially the requirements and recommended steps. Step one would be to establish a subcommittee of the board, which we recommend would be 2 trustees plus the superintendent. As part of making that provisional appointment, there are requirements related to how you publicize the vacancy, how you publicize what the appointment process is going to be, so that if they're interested members in the community, they can read it, go on your website, figure out what's involved, and decide whether they want to apply. Another key part of it would be actually to create an application packet and actually solicit or seek applicants for the vacant board position. After the applications come in, the subcommittee of 2 trustees and the superintendent would screen the applications, and they're not screening to determine which those 2 board members, which applicants those 2 board members like or don't care for. It strictly is to see whether the applicants are eligible. Do they reside within area 4? Are they over 18 years of old, or 18 years of age? Are they eligible to serve as a board member? Then what it comes down to is the board, the full board would conduct interviews of the applicants. The board would hear from the public. There has to be an opportunity for there to be public comment for the public to weigh in as well. And then at some point in that process, the board would make the appointment. And the asterisk on the slide indicates that all of these things, when you're dealing with selection or appointment of a new board member, all of that is held in open session. There's no right to meet on any of this in closed session. So that's the process. A couple of highlights. I do think the subcommittee is important, because hopefully if it's just 2 trustees helping the process move along, they don't have to wait for a next meeting. They are not subject to Brown Act requirements. They can take care of sort of some straightforward procedural issues and get that process moving, so there's no time pressure relative to the 60 days to make the appointment. So I would encourage the board to take that action. Another helpful, Trustee McBride mentioned that she attended some CSBA conferences earlier. I think that's what you said. And CSBA does a really nice job. CSBA is the California School Boards Association. They do a really nice job of putting together application materials, sample questions, and we recommend that you actually follow the model application that they provide. Obviously, again, you want to interview all the eligible candidates that apply. And we'll see at the end of my presentation, we're going to sort of go through a potential timeline that I worked on with the superintendent. But you might need to do a special meeting just to make sure we get everything taken care of, depending on what interest there is for the available position. And really, when you're considering the applicants, my advice would be to focus on the positive. It's very important, and you want to encourage people from the community as you trustees know more than anyone. You want to encourage people to step up and to volunteer their time, their knowledge, their skills to serve the children that we just heard earlier today and all the employees and the community. So really the process is one that's positive, where you're very appreciative and you recognize what volunteers are doing as far as stepping up. So those are some considerations relative to the provisional appointment, which is the first option that you have. The next slide. There also is an option where the board could say, you know what, we don't want to make the appointment. We want there to be a special election. And that is an option as well that the board could do. But even if the board appoints and exercises its right and authority to make an appointment, members of the public have the right to say within 10 days of that decision, they have the right to call for a special election, to essentially compel an election and not simply provide that right to the board. These are requirements as far as the posting requirements and all the notices that have to happen that relate to the special election. Next slide, please. Then what has to happen after the decision's made to appoint, if the public wants to petition, and if they get the requisite number of signatures on those petitions and they do it within the 30-day time frame, then an election can be compelled. And that last bullet, it typically happens no later than 130 days following the determination that the petition is sufficient after the signatures are verified by the county superintendent. So those are the processes, the two choices, either to make the provisional appointment or to call for a special election. The next slide. And actually, before we go to the timeline, I want to just point out the differences. Yes, you could yield the authority and let the public hold or call for the special election, or the board could endorse that and say that's the way we could go. And that is one option. Again, it does cost money, but earlier a comment was made, and forgive me, I don't remember who made the comment, but one board member can change how the board functions as a group of 5. It only takes one. And I say that because as important as the input and the votes are from the community, the board, when you exercise that right to make a provisional appointment, you do have the right to consider who you might best be able to work with individually and who the board would collectively be able to work best with. And I think that's an important consideration. So there are trade-offs no matter how you go, but that's one issue that we need to resolve. If in fact the board went with making a provisional appointment, here's what the superintendent and I were envisioning as far as a possible timeline. Today's September 11th, and we're having an informational presentation as to how the process works. And I just went over that. Our hope is to not only approve the general process and to move forward with that, but also for the board to pick. Does it want to go forward with a provisional appointment, not naming who that is, but to go in that direction? Or does the board want to move for a special election and do that? If in fact it's moving towards a provisional appointment, we recommend that you solicit candidate applications later this month, maybe hopefully as early as the 18th, and give a number of weeks for people to get that application packet in. Like I said, they're CSBA forms, so it's not difficult to get that packet together, and we could do that rather quickly. We're also hopeful that there's another meeting on September 26th, and that at that meeting, the board could give some consideration to the idea of the subcommittee and pick 2 members to work with the superintendent on that subcommittee. For October, after the application materials have been submitted, we're hopeful that the subcommittee would review the applications, make sure that all the people that submitted applications are in fact eligible. I'm sure that the preschoolers that we heard from are wonderful, but they're not eligible to serve as board members. So you would screen out who's eligible and who is not. October 5th, and I'm not sure that that is a board meeting, but we would want to find a date in early October for there to be public interviews by the board of the candidates, an opportunity for there to be public input. And then the 16th, which is a board meeting, the board would make its appointment decision, would make a provisional appointment decision by majority vote. And then after that, there's a 10-day requirement. After the appointment's made, the board has to identify who that individual is. And then again, going back, then the public has the right to step in and say, within a certain period, we, the public, here are the petitions, we file them all in due course, and the public has the right, again, to call for a special election. So all of that would happen in October. And then by November 5th, that's a reminder that 60-day, as I mentioned earlier, it's a 60-day timeline. The deadline for making the provisional appointment is November 5th. The way we've laid this out, the decision would hopefully be made in October, with the hope that by December of 2023, the provisional appointee would be seated at your next organizational meeting. So those are the steps. That's the process. I know that the action item on the agenda says to approve the process. I guess I would hope that we could expand that. It's not only approving the process, but also that, the board either make a provisional appointment or endorse the idea of a special election. Those are the choices. But Trustee McBride, with your permission, I'm happy to answer any questions from the board or staff.
Anyone have questions?
It's a lot to swallow hearing at once.
Mr. Perlman, I wasn't serving on the board at the time. It was right before I did. And there was a board member who resigned at a board meeting, and then the board chose to do the provisional appointment. And they had two candidates who spoke individually at a meeting, and they were excused. The board then made its consideration, selected a candidate. And I could be wrong, and Mrs. Martin, you might remember, I thought that the board member selected was immediately sworn in and sat at the dais.
I don't recall that.
Yeah.
I don't.
And I wasn't part of that either, but I would say that depending on the timing as to when that vacancy arose, it could have been that the only option the board has would be for a provisional appointment, and there might not have been a right for a special election.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't my question. I wasn't clear. My question is here, we select on October 16th, give or take, if we go that route, a provisional appointee, but it's not till December that they're actually sworn in. Can you help me understand why there's that gap?
It could be earlier, but you do have to give time to see if the public wants to request a special election.
Okay.
So it probably is a month's time.
Got it. Thank you.
Of course.
That was my question. And it does help to have sort of a general timeline to figure out how things would fall in. So by December, I know our December meeting's early in the month. By December, the board would have its full majority of 5 if we go that route.
But possibly sooner.
And if we don't go that route, do you have more slides? Are you going to talk to us about if there is a special election? What's the likely timing of when that would occur?
There was a previous slide that mentioned it's a time frame of somewhere between 130 days to 150 days. So it's a longer time frame to actually get the outcome from a special election.
That's as much as 5 months.
Correct.
So if there is a petition, the petition is approved, maybe that happens in November. If that were to happen, it could be April.
Yeah, and just to read you the language again, it's slide 6. It's the last bullet on slide 6. There it is. Thank you. Special election must be held no later than 130 days following the determination that the petition is sufficient. So it could even be longer than 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
But then it's got to be between 130 and 150 days.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So I know that you shared that the provisional appointment goes through November of 2024. So it would be from November of this year to November of 2024 when we do the next election. What would the special election term be? Should we go with the route of the election with the term?
Same duration.
So we could vote the person in April, and then we would have to go through another election in November, just a
Correct.
couple months later. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Anyone else have any more questions?
I don't know procedure. Do we have an opportunity to talk about this today, or do we need to wait till our next board meeting? Was this just for information only, or do we have an opportunity to have any, I don't know.
We do have an action item that follows this presentation.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Yeah.
So I do have a question with, I'm seeing that September 18th, and I'm wondering, is there going to be a conflict? I don't know what exactly that will entail, but with you and Mrs. Martin leaving, isn't that the weekend that you all are going to Washington, DC?
We will be gone that Monday.
September 18th.
Yeah, that would just be for soliciting the candidate applications. So we don't need to be physically present for that. But thank you for asking.
Okay, well, if no one else has any more comments or questions, so we'll move on to board operations then. Adopt process to fill governing board vacancy. It is recommended the governing board commence a process ending with a timely provisional appointment as required by law. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Mr. Favela, do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Ms. Linton. And so is there any more discussion, comments? Then I will take a vote. Mrs. Lundin,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Sabel,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. So that is unanimous. Now moving on to business services. Action Resolution 05-2324, adopting the GAN limit. It is recommended the governing board approve Resolution 05-2324 in accordance with Article 13B of the California Constitution. So do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Favela, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Lundin. Is there any comment? Okay, I will take a vote. Isabel? Aye. Ms. Lundin? Aye. Mr. Favela?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Then number 2, action on audited actuals for 22-23. It is recommended the governing board approve the 2022-2023 unaudited actuals financial report, including designations, commitments, and assignments of the ending fund balances. Do I have a motion for this?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Lundin. A second?
Aye.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. Okay, and is there any comments?
Don't we have a presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. I have our Associate Superintendent of Business Services is here to give an overview of the unaudited actuals as part of our discussion. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Hazel, colleagues, and special guests. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cindy Martin, and I'm the Associate Superintendent of Business Services. And yes, I have the cutest shoes. I know I can see. I would like that reflected in the minutes, please. Thank you. In the newspaper too would be awesome. Tonight, I will make a brief presentation on our unaudited actuals. I wasn't sure that I was going to be here or not because I had been out ill for the last week and a half. So that's why it wasn't formally agendized, but it is something that we like to share because it's good news. Let's see here. So
unaudited actuals, what is that? We usually hear acronyms that confuse us or we add to the list, but this is actually one that's a title that, what are the unaudited actuals? And it's really the end of the fiscal year financial report, covering from July 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2023. This report includes the actual amounts that the district received in the form of our revenues, that it spent in the form of our expenditures, our carryover, so what we'll carry over into the next fiscal year, and then our reserves, called the components of ending fund balance. One of the major differences, just to point out, is that and I'll touch on this in the slide, is that I make budget presentations to you when we adopt the budget, when we do the first interim report, second interim report. The unaudited actuals is the actual, I refer to it on the finance side, of our test scores. These are the results. The budget's the plan. So we go through, and this is the budget represents what we plan to spend, what we plan to receive. But the unaudited actuals are what we actually did receive, or what we did spend, what things actually cost. And I'd like to just recognize, I have two of the people that I get the honor and privilege to work with on a daily basis. Sheila Duncan, our payroll supervisor, and Lindsay Pillen, our accounting supervisor, who they did this work. They and their team in the accounting department did the work. So I don't want to take credit for their work that they did, because it's a significant amount of work to get this done. While opening up the school year and getting ready for budget time, they're really working in 3 fiscal years, and they did an outstanding job. And as some of you may remember, last year was a little bit of a nutty year for us. So while I was serving in dual roles, the district's ability to continue with such a strong financial position and condition that we have, really, I couldn't have done it without the help of these two extraordinary people and their staff members in the county team. Like I say, kudos. So they're very quiet and behind the scenes, but they're working away. But just to refresh on the budget timeline, when we talk about things, you all adopted the budget June of 2023. And when you did that, you approved the budget based on what the state's proposals were. We've done that. Where we are now, September 2023, is closing out last fiscal year. And going back to what I said, what did we actually receive? What did we actually spend? And what that does, the impact of that is it affects what we carry over into the next year. And then the next big major milestone will be the first interim report, where we're going to report where are we as of October 31st. So that 100+ page report that the state requires that we be submitted, that I know Trustee McBride loves, really to break it down, this is what matters and this is what's important. And there's several other important things there, but I will tell you, the state, even as of this morning, they were making changes to the software in that 100-page report that's in the board. So for those districts that have already approved and adopted, not that it's an issue, it's just they're constantly changing things. So I like to take what that 100-page report represents and break it down on something that we really can understand and relate to. For our general fund for last year, we received $110 million. We spent $102 million, almost 103. So we have I don't like the word excess of revenue, because it sounds like we're not spending as we should, but we're not deficit spending. And that is a major concern that any district that is deficit spending should, one, know why they're deficit spending, and two, work on plans to not do that. So we ended the year in much better shape or condition, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because of our conservative methods of budgeting, of being cautious and being able to add things as we go along the year rather than add and then have to cut. So there was 2 significant pots of money last year, the arts, music, instructional materials block grant and the learning recovery emergency block grant, that were close to $9 million for our district. When we adopted the budget last year. We didn't know that those revenues were going to come through. We didn't know what they were going to look like. We didn't know the restrictions or limitations on them. So they weren't included in the budget at that time. As we did the first interim report, second interim report for last year, we added those things. But for those of you who are familiar with my presentations, you hear the term maximize our revenues. So one of the things that we were able to do is take, once we knew the money we were getting, because we've all heard that the California economy, there's swings and things happening, and we want to make sure that we are in the best position to respond to what changes. But we also are forward thinking in our planning. And for things like the smaller class sizes, we know there's a math textbook adoption that's going to be coming up. We plan for those things, and we know what we want to do through the priorities of the board. And so when the money comes in, that's where we do our magic behind the scenes to spend those restricted pots of money and to really end up giving the board and the district the most flexibility to do what's important at this level in this district, because we're very different from other districts, and quite frankly, very proud of that. So when we get letters from the county office who has oversight and they're responsible for making sure that we are being fiscally responsible, you hear terms, your deficit spending, or other districts will say, but the reality is when we close the books, we're not, and we're in much better shape than, I'm going to tell you, a lot of other districts around. I also like to tie this for you because in that 100+ page report, if you go to Form 01, page 1, you can see the number circled. That's exactly where I got my numbers here. So I'm not making up numbers. You can reference the report that's there to see, okay, that is really the revenue we received, the expenditures received. So it's on that part of the report that's part of the 100 pages there. Another key component of this is what our contingencies and our reserves, our ending balances are. So for our district, we're required to have a 3% minimum reserve for economic uncertainties. And for last year, that was a little over $3.1 million. When I say maximizing revenues, remember talking about really using our funds in the compliant, but giving the district the most flexible way. It resulted in almost $4.5 million in one-time savings. And I want to be clear, it's one time. So when we look forward at, to spending things, and we're considering things like salary increases, or, this is one-time money, it's not ongoing. But when we're thinking about things like math textbook adoption, or having smaller class sizes for an additional year, or any of these other things that we feel have been successful over the past few years post-COVID, this is where it can come from. You can see that there's the $1.2 million in what we call the site and department carryover. This district has a practice, and it's been in place long before I got here, but of allowing our schools and our departments to maintain and to keep what their carryover is. And the advantage of that is that the district office is not sweeping these funds to do with what they want. It allows our sites to spend strategically and on the needs at their schools without this use it or lose it mentality of ordering cases and cases of paper clips because they don't want to give the money back to the district office. And I will tell you, that's not, I don't know how common it is of a practice or not, but it doesn't happen everywhere. Usually the money's swept, or often the money's swept, and it goes back into the district's general fund to be reallocated or to be used in some other way. So it's a significant amount of money, but it gets sent back out to our schools and departments to use. We have, in addition to the 3% reserve that I talked about, we have another $1.5 million set aside. So you're looking at close to, 4.5% between those two pots of money. And then Mrs. Husing referred to our NAFIS, our Impact Aid conference that we'll be going to. This district relies heavily. It's been built into our budget. It's been something we've had for years, Impact Aid. And so, but I will say, because we're at the mercy of the federal government, and sometimes the timing of when they actually pay us can be, we're at their mercy. We like to have 1.75 set aside to really offset cash flow issues that can happen. When you've heard of the federal government shutting down and they're not going to pay people, well, we don't want to be stuck in that situation. So this is just a little early warning alarm of, hold on, we've got this money already set aside. It's a practice we've been doing for years, like I said, longer than I've been here, which is to collect the money. Once we collect the money that we have budgeted, we start saving that for future years so that we always, should impact aid program go away, we would have some planning time, a little bit of cushion there. Additionally, we have $6.6 million that had already been committed or assigned. Now, keep in mind, this is as of June 30th of 2023. So that $6.6 million, you can see the learning recovery plan for 23-24. That money is being spent. That is what is sustaining the smaller class sizes for this year. And then some of the additional staffing in the form of some of our support at the school sites that was part of our 3-year learning recovery plan. So being careful, being strategic, knowing what's happening in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento and Fallbrook, between our contingencies and our reserve, we have balances of over $18 million that could be used. While I said it's committed for, some of it's committed, it could be used to help sustain some of the volatility that happens in Sacramento and then in Washington, D.C. It's not additional money sitting out there or a savings account because, again, part of it's including this impact aid money that goes in 1 year and goes out the next year. But in general, when our budget's a little over $100 million, it's a healthy reserve to have. Again, I took from that 100-page report to show you, if you went to Form 17, page 4, there's all the same numbers that are on there. So I'm not making these numbers up. I'm pulling it from that giant report. I would like to point out that part of when we do the unaudited actuals is how we end the previous fiscal year. As I said, affects because that money carries over into this fiscal year. And these positions are included in the 23-24 budget. These are new since we adopted the budget. Quite frankly, they're legally required. You can see like the 7 3.9-hour classroom assistants funded by our expanded learning program. That's because of the addition of the TK that we have. And with the TK requirements of having an adult to student ratio lower, we have to have assistants there. So playground supervisors, the class, you can see the classroom assistants for the two new TK classes, and then special ed program assistants really are compliance issues for IEPs that are required. So these are just to bring up to speed and be completely transparent with the public as far as these additional positions are in there. You'll see this again when I present to you in December about that first interim. Any other positions that are needed in between time, we present this list to you so that you know right there what's been included or what's been added. And then next steps. So going back to the timeline, the budget timeline, we're working right now. And when I say we, they, so I don't want to take the credit, but working right now on actually taking our budget that you all adopted in June. And now that we've hired the people and we know who's there, we're actually now updating salaries and benefits and things because we know who the people are. So we're kind of taking what that budgeted position was and now we know who the person is. We know what their cost is. We know what their benefit cost is. So that's going to be coming back to you when we do the first interim to kind of do the comparison of here's what we budgeted the cost would be, and here's what we're projecting the cost to be. We're carefully monitoring our student enrollment and the required staffing, and that goes back to some of the new positions that we had to add. So it's something that the executive cabinet looks at on a regular basis. We receive the same enrollment reports and just make sure, because not just the TK, it's also the K3 It used to be class size reduction, but grade span adjustment to make sure that those classes don't exceed certain limits there. We'll always continue our careful strategic planning. That's just built into who we are. And then we'll prepare for you the first interim report that, like I said, we'll be bringing back to you at our board meeting in December. So that was my brief presentation there. Are there any questions from any board members? That's it. Thank you very much. Oh,
I just think all of us would agree that we are so fortunate to have an extraordinary business office with your leadership and all the way within the office. You are amazing. What you do is extremely complicated. You juggle all of these different pots of money. And what's also extraordinary is that the business office and the education and curriculum team work hand in hand. And your approach is always, how can we help you do what you need to do? And so I think you all deserve a round of applause.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin.
Madam President, may I make a comment?
Yes.
I just want to state that when I read in yellow, we did not deficit spend, I just couldn't believe it. I
and I
am
said,
well-
believe it.
Yes, I am well aware of multiple districts, especially where I live, that they're on deficit spending. For Cindy and her team and this board to achieve this, it's huge. Our kids are being well served. And then on top of that, we have a healthy reserve. So congratulations to my colleague, to the board for an amazing job.
Okay, with that, I will be calling for a vote. Mrs. Lundin. Aye. Mrs. Sabel. Aye. Mr. Favela.
Aye.
And I also. Okay, moving on to educational services, information, workshop, and conference attendance. Next, the consent agenda. It is recommended the governing board approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Favela. A second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Lundin. Any comments?
Okay, I know I've been touting the successes of our staff, but this is also another one. I wanted to acknowledge on item 7, where we are putting some funding into the Irvine Math program to provide professional development for our math TOSAs and teachers. Thank you, Dr. Husing. That's exactly where our money should be going.
We're working on that today.
Yeah, good.
Very good. Okay, with that, I'm going to call for a vote. Mrs. Sabel? Aye. Mrs. Lundin?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
And I also will call aye. We're now moving to adjournment. This meeting is adjourned at 7:19.